what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, hey, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Good evening. I'm Coulter Wonkite. I'm already into the 420, damn it.
You like music, you like weed, well, we gonna be good friends indeed. This is how much I like more than smoking trees. They'll make you dance the do-si-do and teach you how the chiva grows. Smoke a bowl on the 420 radio show. On Lifestyle Radio.
Hello, hello. This is the 420 Radio Show. We are live on lifestyleradio.net. Today we're doing a special. We're kind of, sort of in PEI. I'm here.
Well, some of us are.
Yeah, I'm here with Chris Backer, who is actually out east. Hi, Chris. And Chris and Laurie and I are attending via the internet a conference in Prince Edward Island, and I'm going to let Chris tell you a little bit about it, and then we're going to listen to it.
Well, my pleasure. It's a bit of a conference we're having out here at the Murphy Center in Charlottetown. We got about 65 people here or so that came in to listen to cannabis in Canada and a bit of the history of medical cannabis in Canada. And then we're going to talk with a couple of groups of veterans and stuff about PTSD and how using cannabis has helped them. And we've got a couple other people. So we got a therapist and we got a pharmacist here to talk about, how it's helped them and some of the other drugs you can avoid taking by using cannabis.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I believe it's going to start in a minute or two. So, is there anything you wanted to add, Laurie?
I guess I'll just run down the organizations. It's Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana, MUMM, or MUMM, we call them, that sponsored the event. Marcel Genac, the communications director for MCPA Canada, is there speaking today, as well as Fabian Hendry from Marijuana for Trauma Group, and a couple of his guys. And I guess, the Churro Herbal Company. Sorry about that. I have trouble with the word churro for some reason. It's folks that are interested in getting into licensed producer market in Canada, and I think they're just waiting for licensing from Health Canada now.
Cool. So we're going to be here all day with you, and we're going to be listening and stuff like that. And then they're going to break for lunch, and then we'll be back with Brain Health Matters after that. This is the 420 Radio Show, and we'll be back in a minute with the conference from the PEI, Maritimers Unite for Medical Marijuana, Cannabis Conference, and Brain Health Matters. Awesome. And we'll be back. It's the 420 Radio Show, live on lifestyleradio.net.
My mom, we're a chapter of Maritimers United for Medical Marijuana, and this conference is pretty much being held by MUMM and their expertise, knowledge, and compassion. I can't say enough about MUMM and how they've supported us over the last 3 years since we got started in PEI. They've been there for us all the way, and today is just another example of how they go 100%. They brought all these people here today, experts, to help educate everybody at PEI who's interested in getting more information. So we really want to extend a big thanks to those folks. And my other most important thing to do here today is to ask people to support us and to donate. PEI-MUMM is selling fruit for $2 a piece. It costs $1 a piece to buy. And we're selling baseball hats for $10 because we have to pay for everything today, which was a lot of money. We have no funding, and just a few individuals come together. So it's really important that you can help us by raffle tickets, donating at the door, and buying fruit and the hats from us and the T-shirts, and also supporting our vendors who are paying for a table and supporting us that way. So please support them as well. So I'm going to turn this over to Debbie Stoltz-Giffen. She's chair of the Maritimers Unite for Medical Marijuana, and an amazing person, my friend Debbie.
Thanks, Kat. I'd also like to mention that there are MUMM membership forms at the PEI-MUMM table. Anyone here from PEI who would like to join and become a MUMM member, it's $5. $25 if you get a t-shirt to go with it as a super supporter, we call it. And any of those monies raised today will be staying here to help pay for the facilities as well. And all of your personal information will be staying here with Kat and Roger, who's sitting with Kat at the table more to the side here in the back, who are both MUMM co-chairs, so that they can get in touch with you for potential future meetings, events, get-togethers, whatever you decide collectively as a group you might like to do to move forward from today. I'd like to thank you all for coming and thank everybody who's agreed to speak and present at this conference. And without further ado, I'll turn the morning section over to Marcel Gignac, who's a MUMM speaker and also the communication director with the Medical Cannabis Patients Alliance of Canada, a registered federal non-for-profit. MUMM is registered, but we're registered provincially in Nova Scotia. So, Marcel?
Sure. First, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. And can everybody back there hear okay? Pardon me? That would be nice. I have a hard time standing still. As Kat and Debbie both said, we're here to educate everybody on the actual truth behind cannabis as a medicine. In 2008, I became ill. I was told that I was going to be dead before year's end. I started researching and I started using cannabis. 2009, they finally diagnosed me. And when they gave me the diagnosis, the only question they had was, how are you still actually alive? My only response is, I've been using a lot of cannabis. I was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of multiple sclerosis, which is progressive relapsing, which meant I had the best of both worlds. I got to progressively get worse, as well as having relapses that are normal for people with MS. The first few years were miserable, but all of the research that I was finding kept telling me that cannabis was beneficial for the symptoms. I figured I had a lot of symptoms. I was put in a wheelchair. Well, within that first year, actually within weeks, I was starting to use a wheelchair. In 2009, I finally became licensed. And getting licensed took me a year, and that's licensed through Health Canada. And the problem was my doctor refused to sign for me. I fired 7 doctors in a year and a half because I felt they were incompetent and didn't have the best interest of my health in their minds that I felt it should be. So I had no problem firing doctors. I had no problem reporting doctors to the College of Physicians. I basically did what I had to do because if not, I had no other medical options. There were no approved drugs for my condition. So I had no choice but to endeavor on. My doctor finally was convinced through basically educating him on almost a weekly basis. And the fact that I wasn't dying led him to believe that maybe I was onto something, or maybe it was to shut me out and stop me, but he actually signed for me to become legal. So for the first year, I was a criminal. I became legal through Health Canada's program, and I started ingesting concentrated cannabis. I extracted the medicinal compounds off the plant, and I ingested that on a regular basis, just like you would take any other prescription medication. I took a pill every 4 to 5 hours. As soon as I started doing that, I was again a criminal. And I remained a criminal until last week. And the Supreme Court finally overturned or upheld the decision that patients are allowed to use concentrated forms or edible forms of cannabis. Exactly. Woohoo. No, I'm no longer a criminal. The biggest problem we have in society right now is the stigmatism that's been attached after 80 years of propaganda. What people don't realize is that cannabis, although it's called marijuana was a name that was given to cannabis, as is pot, weed, everything else. Nobody realizes or fails to realize that in 1920, cannabis was the most widely used medicine on the planet because it was safe and it was effective. If you were a doctor or you were a teacher or anything like that, and you went to the doctor and you were ill and you had some pain or whatever, the doctor would prescribe you a cannabis tincture. You would take it, you would go to work, and life would be fine. There was no mass suicides, no mass rapings, no mass murders. There was no mass anything because it was used as medicine and people used it. In the 1930s, Hearst and DuPont started vilifying it because of the impact it was going to have on their industrial empires. Background music. The only way they could do it was to basically lie. So they come out and they said that there's this new drug that's making white women want to have sexual relations with black men. Or after smoking it one time, to go insane and kill your spouse. And these were the lies that they fed the public. Everybody at that time was already conditioned or programmed to believe everything their government said is being true. So when the government got on board of this new dangerous drug called marijuana, we've got to stop it. We'll make it illegal and we'll put it on the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act because it must be dangerous. The day after it was put on the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act, or the Narcotic Control Act back then, the day after it happened, the doctors realized they no longer had medicine that was safe and effective because it was now illegal. So they had to turn around and start going to chemically compounds, right? Opiates, narcotics, pills, which really are the real drugs. They've maintained those lies until really, well, they're still maintaining those lies because they'll still tell you. You can see the commercials on TV. Health Canada spends millions and millions of dollars telling kids that cannabis is bad, when we know that the studies show the exact opposite to everything they say. Right? What we've had to do is we've had to endure lies from government that went to our parents, our teachers, our grandparents. Everybody that we were taught to believe was lying to us because they were lied to from the beginning. Now we're at 2015 and we're actually changing that stigmatism. We've gone through the hippie culture of the 60s and the 70s, but we now are at a stage where we recognize the value of the medicinal compounds of the plant. The people that are sick, such as, for example, the MCPAC, the Medicinal Cannabis Patients Alliance was set up and run by patients. Everybody's a volunteer. There's no funding. We survive basically on donations to be able to educate people. We are all educated. We are all former business owners, or we've worked some high-end careers. We aren't what the public perceives us to be. I mean, I love Cheech and Chong, great humor, but it has nothing to do with the truth behind the medicinal use of cannabis. Because we want people to be able to get better without using pharmaceutical drugs, right? I got out of a wheelchair. I basically went from you're going to die to Why are you still alive? Yes, sir? Pardon me? I can't control the volume, but I can get closer. Does that work? Oh, I'm glad you love when I'm closer. I really don't like microphones, and I really have a hard time standing still because I'm a teacher. I can't stand here and write a speech or read a speech type thing. What we have today with us is a result of changes to the medical cannabis programs in Canada. 2000, Terry Parker won a court battle that basically told the judge, or the judges told the government of Canada, that laws regarding cannabis are of no force or effect. Fix it. So they had to come back and made a program, and they called it the MMAR, Marijuana for Medical Access Regulations. It allowed us to grow our own medicine. Or if we couldn't grow it, we could purchase it ourselves. 9 times that program had been taken to court and being found as unconstitutional. On the 9th time, they were told to go back and fix it. They come back and said, we've changed the program and we've implemented the MMPR, which is basically taking the rights away from patients to grow their own and forcing them to purchase from licensed producers, knowing that 60% of the current patients would never be able to afford that medicine. All right, this is what Health Canada came back with the program. Before the program was implemented, the patients had already taken Health Canada back to court. And we were granted an injunction that we could still maintain our gardens until it was actually fought out in court. So that's known as the Allard injunction that many of us are only here because of. A lot of patients got screwed in those judgments. So it's an ongoing battle. But the problem is the battle has been, the government on their side has spent over $1 million so far to try and prevent us from growing our own medicine or people that really need it from having it. Today we have Evan Price, and he's from the Truro Herbal Company, and he's one of those licensed producers, right? We don't consider him to be a bad guy because I know that they were lied to as well. The Health Canada told the licensed producers that they would have a market of $3 billion is what they were projecting. As soon as licensed producers started to try and get the market share, Health Canada barred them from doing advertising. So the projected $3 billion is never going to happen if they're never allowed to tell anybody where they can actually get medicine. I like Evan. Evan has a different vision for his company, so I don't mind being up here with Evan. But I mean, I'm not here for people to be rich, to get rich off the backs of patients. I'm here to protect patients' rights to grow. The man who started this, Terry Parker, did this because he was an epileptic and he found out that cannabis worked better than anything he'd ever gone through. The judge agreed. The biggest problem, Terry Parker has never been successful in finding a doctor to actually sign for him. So the man who got us the program has never even been allowed to be in the program. We know that we need a change. We know that the government's going to change. So what we've done through the MCPAC is we've actually come up with a proposal to make that change. And what we've called is the Harmonized Medicinal Cannabis Program. And what we've done is we've taken the best aspects of the old MMAR program, the new MMPR program, and then added in a new section to allow registered dispensaries. Through our surveys that we've done through the MCPAC and our economic impact analysis that we've done, we've actually been able to prove the market share is available for patients to still be able to grow their own. Patients that don't have the physical location or the physical ability to grow their own could access theirs through licensed producers by mail, which is the way it is now. People that would rather go in to a location and actually pick out the medicine could go to a registered licensed dispensary and select from there. You can obviously see that the price structure is in tiers, right? So, I mean, it would be less expensive for home growing. Our current costs are around 10 cents a gram. Licensed producers would then be more as the wholesale suppliers because they would also be supplying the dispensaries. And then the dispensaries would have to pay for more overhead, walk-in clientele, security, things like that. Of course, they're going to have the highest prices. This all makes perfect sense when you realize that two of our political parties are talking about legalizing cannabis. Legalizing cannabis, I have no problem with, other than the term legalized just means it's a tax grab. The true answer would be to remove it from the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act so industry could have it as well. But under a legal framework, we could already have licensed dispensaries in place across the country that could supply the recreational market when it's legalized. And the government can just throw a recreational tax on any sales to them, but not tax the patients. Patients get paid too much as it is. Seriously. Both the impact analysis and the harmonized proposal can be found on the MCPAC website at mcpaccanada.org or at dignifiedaccess.mcpacanada.org. You can find it from either location. And we've already started sending it out to all of the political parties across the country because after talking to patients, dispensary owners, and licensed producers, it seems to be one of the only viable options anybody's ever come up with yet. So we're going to run with it. How are we doing for time? Normally, I run this more like a classroom where I ask questions and I take questions. So I'm going to ask a question, just a raise of hands. How many people in here openly use cannabis now, whether medicinally or recreational? So we have a few that haven't. All right. The key is what we've got to do is try and educate the people that don't know about it and that don't use it, all right, or are afraid to use it and remove the stigmatism from it. I used cannabis for a very long time. I quit. I had stopped for 10 years, but I used it through my teens, so I used it during my developing brain. It actually got me through school because it allowed me to think coherently and not be jumbled up. For 10 years, I stopped using it. When I stopped using it, I got sick. When I got sick, I started researching. And one of the things that I've been researching was the endocannabinoid system. And I realized very likely that the reason I got sick was because I stopped using cannabis. And I basically let the progression of the disease build up until it erupted into what it actually was. The human body produces cannabis or cannabinoids, all right, similar to the same compounds that are found in the plant. The highest forms of this are in breast milk. So when you give the baby its first feeding, it promotes hunger and happiness and boosts its immune system, and it's been proven to be very beneficial. And this is why doctors are adamant. They don't tell you, here, you've got to breastfeed so your baby can get high. You've got to breastfeed so your baby can get healthy. So it gets that intake of cannabinoids. If a person is missing or is a deficiency in the natural cannabinoids being produced, they're going to get sick. I've understood and believed this for a very long time. My doctor recently had called me in, and when I'd gotten in, the first thing he said is, I'm really tired of people telling me that cannabis cures cancer. And I said, I don't think cannabis cures cancer. I think what cannabis does is builds up the endocannabinoid system so that the immune system can do its job and kill the cancer and fight the infections, repair neurological damage, because I've seen this all on myself. Not the cancer, but we've got more than enough evidence of people that are completely cured of cancer. They use no pharmaceutical intervention such as chemo or radiation or anything like that. So we know that cannabis works. We also know that when Health Canada says there's no clinical trials or studies on cannabis, we know that that's a lie. Cannabis has actually been studied more than any other compound in the world. There's over 20,000 studies on cannabis worldwide, and a lot of it comes from Israel. Canada itself, Health Canada's name is on a clinical trial that was run out of McGill University by Dr. Mark Ware. All right. We know these studies exist, but the government will continue to tell you they don't, so that you'll never believe that you don't need those drugs. Is there any questions before I turn this over to Evan, who's going to explain what he's going to do? Yes?
I'm a therapist, and I work with people who are using cannabis, and also work with parents of young teenagers that are using cannabis, and they have high concerns. What I've been presenting this morning is a lot of the positives about cannabis. So over the long run, is there any research that speaks of any of the negative impacts of effects that will happen any along the length of time?
I would like to say, yes, I found conclusive proof of detrimental effects, but I never have. All right. The first time I used cannabis, I was 12. And I used it that entire time. So looking at long-term usage over a long period of time, we've got no real clinical evidence of ever having any detrimental effects to anybody over a long time. Since 2008, I've actually consumed more than 130 pounds of cannabis myself. I don't think it's something to be proud of, all right, but I'm legally licensed for 30 grams a day or 900 grams a month. Since the beginning of this year, I'm actually been starting to cut back on the amount that I use daily because I'm finding that I'm not needing it. All right, so I'm probably actually ingesting half now of what I was doing this time last year. And if I can get down to just a maintenance dose every day, I'd be happy with that for the rest of my life. But people always say that you get high from using cannabis, and it's true. If you use cannabis every day, from morning till sunrise, or sunset, and you go to bed, you're no longer going to get high unless you add more. So because I do this more as a medicine, I ingest capsules that I formulated myself. I've used this for years. My doctor calls it a miracle because the capsules are basically what turn my life around. Still, I'm ingesting, 15, 20 grams a day, even now. And I still smoke it. And I smoke it from the time I get up till the time I go to sleep. For somebody to come out with a study and tell me that there's detrimental effects, I'm pretty sure I should have seen it by now. Right? You're welcome. Any other questions? about this? I'll ask a question. How many people have approached their doctor about medicinal cannabis? How many of you people were denied and can't have access? How many of you people have access anyways? Good answer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step aside for a little bit and I'm going to let Evan and his master crew take over. And he's going to explain about what the Truro Herbal Company has been doing, which is really a little bit different than what everybody else is doing. So,
sure. Thanks so much. You're very welcome, John. Great. Good morning, everybody. So as Marcel introduced, I'm Evan Price. I'm the president and CEO of the Truro Herbal Company. We go by THC for the nickname and Truro Herbal for our name specifically. I wanted to start this morning by thanking everybody for coming out, and this is an important session. We're proud to be a part of it. Just as a bit of a warm-up activity, because we're going to be doing a lot of talking today, I wanted to have some interaction and a little bit of fun and some prizes. So we've got a little bit of trivia here, and to get you guys talking to us. To start off, it's all marijuana themed and based. So the first one is around growing. And does anybody know what hydro means? A couple of options. It's either indoor growing, B is organic growing, C is growing with a water system instead of soil, or D is professional lighting system. And right here. Hi. There we go. Yeah, come on up and grab a shirt. Yeah. Ladies, got someone over here. I got a couple of colleagues with me here. So our lead grower is Darcy Pittman, and he's the author of some of the growing questions here. And we've got Large and Esther Large just over there. And Lenny Walzer is our, at the end of the table, is one of our board of director members. And he's a licensed pharmacist, and his background is in compounding. So he's going to speak a little bit about some of the changes that are now allowed after the Supreme Court case last week. The second piece, the second question is, what is a trichome? So the first is a special strain of cannabis. The second would be it's a plant root. The third is that it's a bug infestation. Or the fourth is that it's a gland containing THC resin. And back there. D, yeah, it's a gland containing THC resin. So come on up and grab a shirt. There's a fourth one, and this is around growing as well. Darcy's seen this a few times, and he's been in charge of correcting it. So what can yellow leaves tell you about a plant? One is that it's a lack of nitrogen. Two is a lack of magnesium. Three would be a lack of calcium. Or four would be all of the above. And I'm going to go with you right there. All of the above? Yeah, come on up. Great. And this one's more fun. I wasn't sure about this myself, but Darcy says that there are both kinds of these, and we'll clear up all the confusion right now. So, are you able to smoke indoor weed outdoors? There's two options, either yes or no. What do you think? You right there? Yes, absolutely. Of course we can. Hey, go on up. Yep. And then this one is a bit of a reminder. This is the reason why we're all here. What year did Parker win the right to use marijuana as a medicine? Was it 1980, 1990, 2000, or 2015? So, yeah, just to start out with is a little bit of background on the business and how we're going to, or the reason why we're able to provide marijuana as a medicine to patients. So in December 2012, the government of Canada announced that they were going to be changing the way patients access medical marijuana, and the MMAR changed over officially in April 2014, so just about a year ago. So we've been pursuing a license under these new requirements, and there's so given Health Canada's information of the past 10 years under the MMAR, and then what they see going forward after the changes, where it's between the doctor and a licensed producer to be able to provide access to patients, they see that there's a current demand of about 50,000 patients in Canada, and that over the next 10 years, that'll increase by about 50,000 a year, up to about 500,000 patients. For the average use per week is somewhere around 20 grams, but that ranges greatly depending on the ailments and treatment plan for each patient. So some folks, like Marcel mentioned, that are up to 30 grams or more a day, and some folks are just on a maintenance dosage, which is quite a bit smaller. The sales part that Marcel talked about as well is Health Canada has projected that there'll be about 1.3 billion in sales based on those 500,000 patients, and that the licensed producer average sale price right now is somewhere between $7 and $12 a gram, and the long-term price estimates are somewhere between 3 and 5 as the competition settles out and as the patients' dosages stabilize. And then as we're able to sort of write down our costs and as the assets and the capital assets are paid off. Current street price is, province by province, anywhere between 5 and 15 or $20 a gram, but generally pans out in the middle around 10. If anybody's had to subsidize their own medication with street value stuff, you know that it can be quite costly and you don't always know what you're going to get. The other piece is that the subsidized sale price under the old MMAR was around $5. So that's obviously a target to be able to get to, and to get away from the $15 or $20 prices that are out on the market right now. So some people have questions around the politics of this this business and this the way that this is a medicine, and largely this conversation has been had and decided. We've been tracking just over the past 3 or 4 years political and public opinion on whether or not 4 categories, whether it should be legalized outright, whether it should be decriminalized in small amounts, whether or not the laws should stay the same just as they are right now, or whether the penalties should in fact be increased. And you can see that, there is a largest block of people that say that it either stays the same or becomes more relaxed in either decriminalizing or legalizing. And it's over 2/3 of people that believe now that it should either be decriminalized or legalized. So this conversation has been over for quite some time, and we're just waiting, as always, for the politicians to catch up. So after the system changed over, Health Canada began licensing individual facilities, and the facilities we have so far, there's about 25 of them. I think 17 or 18 are able to sell directly to patients. And you can see on the map here, there's one lonely little dot, and I guess that's my question, is that what's wrong with this picture? We have the highest per capita use in Nova Scotia, and there are no facilities there. So we intend on changing that. That's why we pursued the license and made the plan and formed this company. So with that in mind, we've probably got some questions about who we are. We are the Sherwood Herbal Company, or the THC. So far now, we've built a team of that really sets us apart as we would hope as industry leaders because of our background in specialty technical ability. So we've got a diverse set of directors and on our management team that lead to the plan that we've created. And so as I mentioned, Lenny Walzer is here on behalf of our Quality Assurance Director today. The Quality Assurance Director, Dr. David Morgan, has a background in and a PhD in is it chemical biology? Biochemistry. There he is. Yeah, there's so many of those hyphenated words. It's biochemistry. So he's worked in nuclear labs in the U.S. and then did his grad work here in McGill and in Ontario. And then he was a professor at St. FX before we were able to get him on board with our company. He'll be running the QA program, and it's been signed off on by Health Canada. Our lead grower is here, and Darcy Pippin brings about 15 years of home growing experience and working in with some of the compassion clubs around the province in Nova Scotia, and then growing his own medicine for a decade and a half under the old MMAR program. He's currently operating under the Allard injunction, and so we've been watching that case just as Marcel spoke about. And as many of you know, that ability to grow on your own supply at home it has continued, but that the program has ended. So there's sort of a limbo there to figure out, is that going to stay in the benefit of patients that can't afford or aren't on the regular mail delivery path to be able to get that medicine. So we're watching that quite closely. We've got our marketing director, the board secretary, he's got a background in, he's got an MBA in marketing. There's 2 CBVs and 2 CAs on the team, so our financial background for our plan and sourcing funds is quite solid. Our building is being run by a commercial property developer who's developed a large portion of the commercial facilities in Truro. And then, as I mentioned, Lenny Walzer is a pharmacist in Truro. And so his background, as I said, is in compounding. And we're going to be keying into that quite soon because the research lab we're proposing for our facility will also have the ability to concentrate products and then do some research in new delivery options. So as I mentioned, Lenny is here on behalf of the Quality Assurance Program. There's some facts here about how we're going to be testing and things that we'll be using in order to establish the quality of the medicine and its chemical profile. Lenny, did you want to come up and say a couple of things? Great.
Can you hear me? Can I project loud, or do I need the mic? All right, use the mic. I hate mics. Sorry. My name is Lenny. I've been a pharmacist for 15 years, and I'm about to read something here I haven't done in 20 years, and that's biochemistry. So if anyone has any questions, do not ask me about it. It's Dr. David Morgan. We can definitely provide you with his email for all these questions. He is going to use high-performance liquid chromatography. I guess some of the other facilities are using gas liquid chromatography. He finds this an easier process. I had a brief discussion with him, and he finds the data from the Belgium studies much more valid. So that's the route that he's going to use. I guess he did mention a little bit of the gas chromatography. And essentially, it was just for preference, using his experience. He just thinks the data is more reliable. The one thing we will be testing for in-house is molds and bacteria for the standard infectious types that most industries use. Other than that, I don't know a heck of a lot about it, which I said at the start. The only thing he did mention was pesticides will be tested out of our facilities. Just it's too broad a scope that we can do financially or economically. So all testing will be done in-house except for the test of heavy metals and pesticides. That's the only thing he really wanted me to pass on here. And to be quite honest, it's one thing Health Canada might have done correctly is ensuring the quality assurance standards. People are getting recalls I'm hearing from other companies. That is the one good thing about the license producing pathway, that I think they can ensure good standardization and safe product versus Lord knows what someone's getting on the street. So I'll give Health Canada that one bit of props. And nobody here probably knows what a compounding pharmacy is. You don't count. Essentially, pharmacy was originally, everything was compounded, everything was made. And compounding just basically means that the pharmacist is making something specific for the patient for that therapeutic need in discussion or communication with the physician and the patient. It's kind of a triad. Then pharmacy industry, let's just put everything into a pill, and everything became pills. And basically my role today is, as a pharmacist in compounding, is, well, I'll say thyroid. Oh, well, that thyroid 100 milligrams doesn't work. That thyroid 88 micrograms doesn't work. I need 90. How do I get there? Well, I make it. That's basically my role. A lot of things are creams, gels, suppositories, lozenges, whatever. So that's what a compounding pharmacy is. Any pharmacy can technically compound. Some of the ones that kind of focus on it, like myself, have done a little bit of extra training. So I don't consider myself a specialist in any means. It's just something I kind of had interest to help my patients. And my basic opinion of medical marijuana is it's individualized for the patient. I consider it a pharmaceutical active ingredient like anything. Morphine, thyroid, insulin. To me, I'm a pharmacist. I'm into drugs, pardon me, but that's what I'm into. The pathophysiological, the pharmacokinetic, the pharmacodynamic aspects of it. And I consider medical marijuana and the cannabinoids all part of that same system. So that's how I got kind of interested in this company when I met Evan for the first time, because I'm into drugs and I know there is evidence and there's therapeutic benefits to these products. And I kind of I'm not in the political side. I'm not a giant advocate. I'm not an expert on medical marijuana, but Health Canada has a document for information for health care professionals about medical marijuana. That's all I've ever read. And there's all kinds of studies and data in that little 200-page document. Just people have to read it. So, anyone, that's a good advocate point. If the doctor doesn't know where to go, tells you how to dose right in that document. So, maybe that helped. But whereas coming into the compounding aspect was the Supreme Court ruling next week. And that's what I'm really into when we have that research lab is everyone's aware of edibles and ingestion and capsules and suppositories, but there is other routes. And I'll say my theory or opinion is I do think transdermal and topical is actually going to be a really cool way to go for people. And I actually think it's going to be mixed. I think patients will probably get the best therapeutic effect through a mixed route, some oral, some ingestion, and some topical. So, and again, I think the key is it's going to be patient specific. What is your condition? What is your need? And that's basically my kind of role and my interest in our company is getting people the therapy they need in the correct way. So that's anything else I'm supposed to say? I guess there's a Q&A after here, so I like talking the subject, so by all means, even after this is over, let's chat.
Thanks, Lenny. Darcy, you want to go next one? So as Marcel mentioned, we're taking a bit of a different approach when it comes to dealing with patients and trying to formulate the business decisions that we'll be making. And we've started off with kind of a patients first approach, and then we'll be focusing on Atlantic patients primarily. And a lot of this is driven by Darcy's involvement as well. So the plans for our facility specifically would be that we're going to start with a 15,000 square foot facility in the industrial park in Truro. We've got 6.5 acres of land up there that the town's agreed to sell us, and we'll be developing a 2.5 acre facility to start, and we'll have an additional 4 acres to be able to expand into as the need grows. The facility inside has a 6,000 square foot space for growing, and we intend on expanding that vertically and then on its walls as the company grows. The annual production capacity for our first phase of development is somewhere between 2 and 3.5 million grams. So our biggest problem at that point is going to be managing how many patients do we take on in order to make sure that we're not running out of product and be able to consistently and reliably be a source of medication for them. The goal as we start out is going to be to start with somewhere between 8 and 12 strains. There'll be about 4 that are sort of house varieties, the main production varieties, and then there'll be another 4 to 12 that Darcy's going to work on developing new strains as well as making sort of a niche product that people can try to supplement some of their more recognized strains and medicine options. The goal is to work somewhere between 1,600 and 2,800 patients within Atlantic Canada to start with that first phase, and that's principally going to happen between the education of both patients and their physicians on this and using it as a medication. And with that, we've got our Director of Medicine, Dr. John Gillis, and he's a pain prescribing physician. He's been working with medical cannabis for, I believe, over 8 years, and we'll be working alongside him to help educate the doctors on what has worked in his practice and what they can use in diagnosing and helping their patients. So to expand on that patient first strategy and better informing our business decisions, what we wanted to do was reach out to patients specifically and ask them, involve them in our management process. And so what we did was we conducted a series of outreach sessions in Halifax and Truro during the month of May. And then we compared that with an online patient survey where people would be able to answer a series of questions, and it would help shape our knowledge of what's working for them, what's not working for them, how did they get here, what were some of the problems that they've experienced in all of their medical treatment path, And then we'll be able to design materials and strains and inventory modeling systems that will fit the needs of those specific results. A couple of interesting things that we found were either that there was a specific trend around something, or that the lack of trend was a standout. And so one of the things that we saw that there was a lack of trend was around the strain-specific information. So we had a list of 4 varieties that we intend on growing, and then we asked for what's working for you right now. And the varieties of conditions were very common. There's chronic pain, there's sleep problems, there's anxiety and PTSD were some of the more common ailments that showed up in the survey. But there wasn't a clear picture on that it's an indica in the evening, or that it's sativa in the morning, or that it's X number of grams that's working for this person. It was really all over the map. And so you can see that's going to be a stumbling point for the doctors, and they'll have to work on a continual basis to supervise how that prescription unfolds, to make sure that the patients are getting the best possible treatment. But what we did find that was significant was that for all of the respondents, nearly 100% said that the treatment of marijuana as a medicine was either effective or very effective in replacing other more harsher pharmaceuticals, and that 65% of them, in fact, said that it was very effective. The top box. So we see that this is a clear opportunity. My last year at Dalhousie, I was elected the VP Finance for their student union, and part of that was managing the in-house medical plan that we had for our 17,000 students. And of those, the most common prescription on campus was 40% of all of the prescriptions that were written were for stress or anxiety, like antidepressant meds. And it's because it crosses both sexes. The next most popular prescription was the pill. So, I mean, that was a real wake-up call for me, saying that if there's some way, I mean, there's 40% of prescriptions that go to 17,000 students are all for anti-anxiety. There's some problem there, and it's not being addressed properly. So we certainly see that if there's a way to replace medicines with a more targeted approach, this is clearly going to be one thing that we're going to research. So we had a video that there's a hyperlink right there, but the reason why we were a bit delayed this morning getting going is that we've got one computer that will connect to the internet, but it doesn't have PowerPoint, and another computer that has PowerPoint but won't connect to the internet. So there was a great animated video, and it was concise, sort of a consolidation of all of the facts and most common trends that we had from that patient survey. And I'd love for you to see it, but we'll have to either post that or send it around. For now, the patient survey is still open, and part of this is that we do value the feedback, the conversation that we're having with patients directly to give them an opportunity to shape the decisions that we're making in creating this medicine. And because we do want to focus on Atlantic Canadians first. And so if you are interested, please send me an email. It's very simple. It's just evan@thethc.ca. And I've got cards that people want that have that on them. And I can send you the survey link, and would be more than happy to have your responses included there. So as I mentioned, Darcy is our lead grower. He's been growing for over 15 years and has got some pretty hands-on experience and techniques on how to make a superior quality product. And we're going to be using a state-of-the-art growing system that Darcy's going to talk a little bit about. The goal is to establish new strains through this research program that we'll have inside, and it's using his experience and mapping a couple of cross-breeded strains that would be a more targeted approach for some specific ailments that are sort of habitual to Atlantic provinces. And as we've seen, we're really the only LP or LP applicant that has stepped forward and asked patients directly, what do you need in an LP? What are you looking for? How much can you afford? And how much do you need reliably? Is there anything that we can do to help with that facilitation process of getting the documents put together? And I know that's where MFT stepped up in big order to make sure that the veterans paperwork was being organized, because organizing a system through Health Canada, through your doctor, and through Veterans Affairs, that's a lot of paperwork for somebody to try and accomplish, especially if they're not well. So we're trying to help where we can, and certainly MFT is standing up and helping where they are too. Okay, yeah, that's a great question. That's a very common question that we had in our survey. Is that is there an ability to have this covered under a drug plan? One of the most common answers that we got was that it's not. So that's not forever. The clear stumbling block for that point is that Health Canada hasn't, although it's been forced to recognize it to be included in medical treatment, it hasn't given it a specific drug identification number, and that's the key point on whether or not it will be able to be covered under plans. There are a couple of ways around that, and one is that if you are a veteran, will be covered under Veterans Affairs as a medicine. There's another is that a doctor can give you a specific exemption for necessary treatment. So there is some paperwork that he can to help file to make sure that it's covered under, I think, the provincial health plans. And then if you talk to your plan specifically and say that, look, I'm already written this prescription, some of the drug, Blue Cross and some of the others have picked it up, but it's only on a sort of a case-by-case basis. We know that MedCan was a principal architect in getting that covered under their system in their home country. And so I know that they're going to be pursuing that interest here. And that was one of the key pieces in the survey that we found, was that the affordability of the medication is not for patients right now that are on the low income or work disabled, and that they simply can't afford it through the legal routes if they don't have a home growing license that's covered under the injunction. So that is absolutely going to be one of the things that we pursue. And it's not that 80% of the population is going to be using this. It's a small tranche, and it balances against some of the other pharmacological options that are out there. But certainly, I mean, if it's a medicine, it needs to be recognized and done that way. How we get there is a bit of a peak.
Well, looks like we lost you there. Sorry about that. I think the laptop's gone to have a cookie. So as soon as I get everything all queued back up again, we'll get you back up and going here. I think it's Lenny, the pharmacist, who's going to be talking here. So as soon as that's up, we'll be talking to you again.
And we'll be back in a minute on lifestyleradio.net.
And how are you, all you guys today? That's good. My name is Darcy Pittman, and Evan approached me here back in January of 2014. He came over to the house one night and gave me his vision and asked me if I would want to become a part of it. And knowing my history with cultivating cannabis for the last 15 years, he figured I'd be a good fit for this company. So I decided to jump on board, but only under one condition, was that we take patients' input very seriously with this company. Like patients, without the patients, you have no company. So if the patients are asking you for, if the patients are asking you for a strain of cannabis, you should grow that strain of cannabis for them. So that was one of the big things with me. That's why we try to interact more with our patients and groups like this. So, so that's why I came on board. And I want to grow quality medicine for patients. I don't want it to have a bunch of I don't want to grow with chemicals and spray with chemicals to keep bugs and stuff off. I like to let Mother Nature kind of take care of herself inside. So like with beneficial bugs, grow organically with organic nutrients, stuff like that. That's where my expertise has got to come into play, because I've been playing around the last 5 years with organic farming, and just seeing the benefits of the medicine growing organically over chemically is just hands down better. You get better flavor, better taste, a better cannabinoid profile. It's just everything's better. I mean, it comes down to would you grow your vegetables with Miracle Grow, or would you grow your vegetables with your own organic fertilizer that you put in the ground? I mean, it's a no-brainer there, right? I mean, so that's where I come into play. And as far as our strains go, I like to concentrate on strains that the patient wants. So I want to split it into, if we're growing 8 strands, I want to grow 2 indica, 2 pure indicas, 2 pure sativas, a few hybrids, and then a few autoflowers, because I'm getting into to understanding that autoflowers are, I hate to say, but they're the way of the future, because you can grow your plant in such a short amount of time, but still have the medicinal benefit there. So if I could grow Purple Kush in 120 days, or I could grow Purple Kush in 60 days, and still be the same quality of medicine there, I'm gonna choose to grow the Purple Kush that takes 60 days, because I can pull 2 crops off in the amount of time that I can pull 1 off. So it's less chance of patients. It's less chance of patients going without their medicine. So I mean, and that's all what it's about, is to supply the patient with the medicine that they need, so that they always have it. Unlike some of the companies now who are supplying patients with medicine that they supply it to you for 2 months, and then it's like, oh, well, we ain't got none. You're gonna have to wait 6-8 weeks till our next crop comes in. And what's that do for you? So what that's doing to you is that's pushing you back to the streets again, back to buying it from your best friend or the guy down the corner, or compassion clubs. And I mean, I'm all for compassion clubs, because I purchase my medicine from them now. So when I don't grow enough for myself. So yeah.
Great. Are there any questions? I know we want to have a bit of a dialogue, and I know we're running out of time, but certainly we can start with a couple of questions. Sure. Yeah. Okay, so the question was, are we going to have an organic label? I don't think that we'll be pursuing the grown organic certification, but certainly we're going to be using all of those types of inputs. And I've looked at that myself. I've got a hop farm and a fiddlehead farm back in Nova Scotia, and certainly I use most of the same practices that an organic operation would use, though it's a bit strict on some of the certification. And on our side, there isn't a real upside for hops anyway to be grown organically, because it doesn't translate into a bottle price, though we would still produce a high quality and sure. So, but part of that, there's 2 real pieces. One is that Health Canada requires that we test for pesticides and heavy metals and molds and things, and that's just their list of what they require that we test, regardless of whether we use it or not. And secondly, Health Canada, they have really restricted the allowable substances we're permitted to grow with. And so before Organigram was able to do theirs officially organic, there were some practices that weren't allowable that would have been required under the organic growing standards. And some of that is beneficial bugs.
Yeah, you weren't allowed to use beneficial bugs because people were like, oh, well, then there's going to be bugs on my weed when I get it. Well, no, it doesn't work that way. I mean, the bugs are only going to be there if there's another bug there. If that bug's not there, 90% of them bugs live in the soil. We're not selling the soil, we're selling the bud off the plant. So, I mean, it's all, what it comes down to is it's what would you prefer? Would you prefer a few bugs crawling over your plants, eating some other bugs so that you don't get them bugs? Or would you prefer me to go spray it with Vision, or a hard pesticide and say, here you go, here's your medicine now? There is pesticide on it, but it's acceptable levels. You know, like that just doesn't fly, right? Like why would you want to put that in your body?
Yeah, we'll be at all costs. We'll be avoiding the chemicals that are going to impact patients' options and the quality of this medicine. We're sort of stuck with what Health Canada allows, and what's going to be good for the plants, but we're going to be kind of aggressively moving towards the natural ends of this growing system. I think there was one over here. Yeah.
You were saying that you're here to grow.
Yeah.
Are you crossing your own strains?
I am right now developing my own strains at home. Hopefully they will be able to come to the facility with me. But like I say, I've been playing around with a lot of autoflower genetics lately, just because I see that there's a lot of strains out there that have really good, especially sativa strains, that have a lot of medicinal benefit. But they take like 120 to 130 days just to flower. You know, like 12 to 14 weeks. That's a long time to wait for your medicine now. So if I could take them strains and breed them down and bring them down into in around that 10-week mark, then, you know, it's good, right? So.
My other question.
No, there's a silver switch on the bottom.
When it comes to the organics here at PEI, as being somebody who's been involved with them for years at one time, there is no sense of trying to get an organic label.
No, and that's the thing, is we got to jump through hoops and patches to get an organic label, and all that's doing is just slowing us down from providing you guys with quality medicine. So, I mean, if I can just grow it organically and tell you guys, you know, to trust me that it is grown organically, and, I mean, it's up to Evan. I mean, we can even list the ingredients that we use online on our website and say, this is what we grow it. If you want to research it and see what's in it, go for it, right? But, you know, I want to stick with as organic as possible.
Yeah. That's that's a great point, and certainly we have an interest in sort of having a good conversation with patients about our growing practices and the substances we used, and then asking them what's working for them, and then as our the concentration program is able to take hold, then that'll be able to have conversations once they work for those new delivery systems, and then the chemicals and compounds that are involved with those as well. Sure. Yeah.
Are you going to offer income-based compassionate pricing?
Well, that was one of the common trends that came out in the survey that we had, is that the purchasability and affordability of their crucial medication was a key stumbling block for a lot of their treatment plans right now. And so part of that is going to be the pricing strategy. And obviously, you can sell it right now. Their average price is somewhere between 7 and 12. I think it's about 8 and a quarter or so if you average up all the strains available. And the income that we have in Atlantic Canada is not the same to be able to support that as a daily medication. Certainly, so our strategy begins with pricing at the lower options, somewhere in the 3 to 5, 7, somewhere in there, depending on the certain strains. So it'll be lower to start with, and then we'll work with patients on what that's going to be a viable strategy forward.
I have another question.
You mentioned that you were going to test your products, your final products, to see what heavy metals and stuff were in them. What are you guys going to do for your runoff and test what's going into the earth and ensure that that's not going to ruin the earth? Because a lot of the places down in Colorado now are being shut down for using anything except extreme organics because they're being proved that it's polluting the earth, not just people's bodies.
We're running what they call an autopot system, so there is no runoff. But there's no runoff of water. The plants only the way that it works is it's basically kind of like a deep water culture system. Your plants are in soil, in organic soil, and they sit inside of another tray, and that tray has a little float valve in it that's all gravity fed. And your water's just in your reservoir tank, and as it comes through the plant takes as much water as it wants. If it doesn't want to drink, it won't drink. So there is no runoff water.
When you flush your plants out, get your pesticides, that water has to go somewhere. But if you're in Colorado, finding that it's going to be causing environmental issues, will your company do anything to test those chemicals that you can make sure that they're not going back to the earth?
You have to do a lot of testing for wastewater disposal.
So, the plant food systems, obviously, the soil is nutrient infused, and then the water that we'll be using to flush, it's still in that closed loop irrigation system. But any of the wastewater that comes off of that goes, obviously, for town bylaws and for our own requirements, we'll be testing. Certainly, yeah.
It's, one of our other growers is, he's like a water specialist. So what he wants to do is he wants to take that water as it's being flushed out and treat it, basically to clean it so you could drink it on the other end. And that's what he wants to do with all this water, to recycle all the water.
That's my only question. You're making sure that putting in place.
Yeah.
That cleaning system is a UV and charcoal filter.
Yeah, you can get the UV, you can get the charcoal, and then they have a couple other options out there, but the UV one is the one that I was looking at, the ultraviolet light.
UV one is one you must be like cell phase, muscle, everything else, and they there 24 hours later.
Yep. Great. Are there any other questions?
What's the shelf life of the day? What is the best medical effect?
The shelf life. Yes, it actually doesn't go bad. What happens is THC will degrade to CBN, but CBN is still therapeutic as well for pain and things like that. You could find a joint that's hidden in your house that's been there for 20 years, smoke it, and get high.
I think, and I may misquote this, but it's definitely in that document that's in Health Canada Education for Healthcare Professionals. I believe there's a study in the U.S., 5 years at room temperature, 20 degrees, there might be 25% decrease in THC. That's it for 5 years.
It did decrease it?
Over 5 years.
To what? By what percentage?
25.
It just decreased it by 25%.
Over 5 years.
Over 5 years time.
And it's licensed producing company. I hope you don't have stuff on the shelf for 5 years.
Yeah. As a patient, you're not going to have. As a patient, you're not going to have it sitting on your shelf for 5 years.
There's several data as well. I think refrigeration has been shown to extend it somewhat. I believe the original Health Canada product was stored between 2 to 6 degrees. But it is rather stable.
And when you cure your cannabis too, some curing processes take anywhere from 6 to 8 months. So I mean, you get some of the world's best cannabis is cured for 6 to 8 months. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, so it's cured for 6 months or to 8 months, so then it will still be good for another year or two after that. I mean, so really, if you got anyone that I know, any medical patient that I know, never has cannabis around that long.
Me.
And certainly, again, I mean, we have to, as per the regulations, we have to hold any of the samples that we sell for at least a year after, so that any follow-up testing can come from that original sample. So that will be something that we definitely track, is the drop-off or the stability of the chemical compounds as they age, to make sure that the medicine that we sell on day one is still as at the same quality and treatment level at 6 months and 8 months and 16 months and going forward. So, yeah.
Do you have any plans to supply PEI?
Absolutely. I mean, our license would be a national distribution license, and we foresee that there are about 10 to 15% of the patients in Atlantic Canada would be what we would be able to produce in this phase 1 stage of production. And absolutely, we're here today because we wanted to make sure that the patients here know that we're seeking their input, and that if you tell us to go in a certain direction on what to grow and how much to have on hand of that specific variety or price targets, even the packaging that it comes in, if you'd prefer. This is all in the survey that we've got. They'll be happy to send you the link on, but some of the packaging options include like a soft side packaging, whether it should be pre-milled or pre-rolled or whole bud, whether you need a child-resistant, tamper-proof, hard plastic bottle. Those are some of the questions that we've got. And I mean, they may be specific to patients in PEI, they may be specific to patients in Atlantic Canada, and that's what we came here to find out and to share. Sure.
You guys said you were going to post like a review on the test that you guys are going to do.
Yeah, so the heavy metal testing is done out of a lab in Ontario, and it's a company that's been sanctioned by Health Canada to operate under these. So certainly we would be able to say who we do that through, and then the process that they're using is approved by Health Canada for substance detection. But the testing that they use wouldn't be on the samples that go to patients. It would just be on that controlled supply, the small sample, and then I believe that it's destroyed after that. Oh, right, exactly, yeah. Well, we wouldn't be able to sell anything that has any of those the presence above the tolerable levels with Health Canada. So if it exceeds that, then we're going to have to toss it in there. But certainly that would be part of what we would certainly list on the medication label.
In the pharmaceutical industry, there's something called certificate of analysis when you get chemicals. I use this in compounding all the time. And you can even, some companies will provide it, some will not. If a company will not provide you with their certificate of analysis of the product, I'd always be suspicious. Why not? There's a reason, I'll pick vitamin B12. There's a reason some vitamin B12s cost $10 and some cost $25. Some fish oils cost $10 and cost $40. I do know some of the higher ones cost $40. You can go onto their website and get a certificate of analysis. I don't see why we as a company do not provide certificate of analysis if the customer wants their lot number assessed. So I'm assuming our data will be supplyable that way. And it basically stems from the end user. I would contact the company who provide me with a certificate of analysis. So we should be able to provide that data. And again, a company that does not want to, I would always kind of raise my eyebrow personally.
Then again, right quick there, people got to remember too is Health Canada restricts us from what we post and what we don't post. So I'm not allowed to advertise my strains and what they can do for you because Health Canada will not allow me anymore. Will not allow any company to do that because it's promoting marijuana. And they just don't want that. So.
All right, you had a question over here?
Yeah, it's actually
For height?
For higher.
Higher.
What we do, can you pass on to people? Sorry.
Yeah, certainly. That's part of the plan. I mean, for constructing the labs, we would have the ability to test samples for that we didn't produce. So whether that's conducting tests for other LPs that want to have their stuff assessed, or whether it would be for other produced substances, that would certainly, we would follow through what our license would allow, and then grow that opportunity as the laws expand for that.
Yeah, I did have a question just on how you're going to distribute it, like with booking the mail.
Yes.
And if so, if, say, for example, a person wanted to, hello, switch on.
Yeah, so the question would be with distribution, and how is it's going to be mailed to people? So if a person wanted to produce or create edibles, okay, say if there were a person that said, okay, we have so many clients that want to have so many cookies. Okay, let's call them cookies. So would a person, is there a system set up now so that you can then distribute to that company to bake? Because the way the law is right now, how does that work? Like how could a bakery?
No, what's happened with the way the law is, and it's kind of weird. The licensed producers have the agreement that they can make extractions for testing purposes, but they're not authorized to sell as licensed producers to sell concentrates or anything like that. The way the law changed is anybody with medical need can possess and or sell extracts, cannabis, cookies, whatever. Section 7 wasn't struck down, which means that even though you can have it and you can sell it, you can't make it. All right, so what's going to happen is very likely there's going to be a very quick and dirty test case because the first patient that's going in for the charge of production is going to have that overturned and have that maybe error overlooked or realize that, you can't tell somebody they can have it and they can sell it, but they can't make it. So that's got to be fixed. The proposal that we did for the harmonized proposal gives them access to also be able to supply patients with baked goods, concentrates, things like that. so that you as a patient that wanted to order through the mail could order a batch of brownies if that's what they were willing to supply. All right? That's if we can get the new proposal accepted and taken care of. And I don't know if Evan and these guys want to get into the concentrate market, but it would definitely be more advantageous for everybody else.
Yeah, under the current system right now, so patients would be written a prescription by their doctor individually, and then we would be able to. They would choose us as a producer, they would sign on and get registered, and then beyond that, they would order, and then we would confirm that shipment. It would be sent to them through a registered courier, and then they would pick up their medication directly under chain of custody signature the entire way. So. That's how the system is operating right now. But we saw, after 2000, that healthcare had to make this available as a medication for patients, and then the MMR system was developed. So this decision, the Smith case, was just decided, and beyond that, the industry staff reacts. There'll be laws that are put in place and challenged and struck down that don't reflect the new more clarified definition of what medical cannabis actually constitutes. So we expect that we are planning to be able to produce a concentrated material, but it may just be like a single form of concentrate, but it has to be processed into the different textures or cookies or different delivery formats. So what we would do is, for now, is build the lab and the facility that's going to be able to house that. Produce that product, and then wait until the laws change or are challenged, and or perhaps participate in a challenge yourselves to be able to pursue that. But the law really hasn't been written yet in complete forms that hasn't caught up to the decision that was just made.
So it's a gray area.
Well, sort of.
It's pretty cut and dried for them because they're under a program regulations that says they can't. As a consumer, if you can prove medical need that you're using cannabis for medical purposes, you can purchase it or sell it to anybody that you want. All right, that's with Section 4 and Section. If you are using cannabis for medical need, you may possess and or purchase or sell cannabis in any form in Canada. People don't realize that cannabis has actually been legal in Canada since 2000 because they made a legal program that we could grow our own or purchase it directly from Health Canada. So we've always had legalized cannabis. Legalized just means that it's regulated, which it has been.
On Prince Edward Island, pharmacists are now allowed to write prescriptions for certain things. How does that affect the industry and people like me, whose doctor has said, no, I ain't getting a license?
The doctor's not getting a license or not signing to the patient is the doctor's choice. I've already looked at the PEI College of Physicians policy on medicinal cannabis, and there's nothing there that says that doctors are going to lose their license if they prescribe cannabis.
Pharmacists are allowed to write prescriptions now in PEI.
Not for cannabis, because the Pharmacies Association didn't want any part of the new program. Okay. If you look at Health Canada's literature, the only ones that are licensed that can sign for people are medical practitioners, doctors, and nurse practitioners in locations where they're authorized to write prescriptions. So in Northern Territories and communities like that, they don't have a doctor on staff. They have a nurse practitioner who can write that license. And the license for cannabis isn't really a license. It's basically a prescription form that your doctor keeps a copy in your file, and you take the original and you send it to one of the licensed producers. That's all it is. And it's just a simple form with your information, your doctor's information, and how much cannabis you actually use. Where you get it from is your choice, unless you're dealing with a doctor who says that they want you to purchase it from this location.
I'm going to interrupt here. Just a couple more questions, then we're going to have our lunchtime film and ask people to make use of our vendors and our donation table and their fruit, buy some fruit. We need to get enough money to pay for the room today. So a few more questions and then it's lunchtime, folks.
There was a question at this table here from her. And we'll end up having another question and answer session later this afternoon after the Brain Health Matters panel. So you can hit any of us up if you have questions as well. We'll answer your individual questions. Go ahead.
Okay. My experience with my doctor was when I went, he wouldn't write me one, but he said that the health board was stopping them. He said he was going to take their license away. If we wrote the new prescription, they weren't allowed to be writing any new ones, so we just out and out lied to me.
Doctors are human. They will do that, yes.
Yeah, and I was in pain and crying, and I had an advocate with me. We had...
I've heard the argument many, many times, and it's just a matter of educating the doctor and proving to him the fact that that is a lie, because that may be something that another doctor told him.
Because
or
he already prescribes 2 patients. He just said he wouldn't write any new ones because he was afraid to get his license taken away.
No, what they're more afraid of is becoming known as a pot doc.
Oh, okay.
All right, and a lot of the doctors, after they've started writing for prescriptions for 1 or 2, get inundated with thousands of calls because everybody wants this as medicine. So we're going to take one last question way over here.
My registration card, which I've had for less than 6 months, and just because my doctor, family physician, and my psychiatrist, because I am severely depressed and other acid issue things, MFT group contacted me and asked me if I wish to be registered. I gladly jumped on it. Just because my 2 doctors turned me down multiple occasions. I asked them a dozen times. I tested myself and I got registered because of this great group. And I just want to now I can sort of my accident issues and depression and stuff. And it makes it much easier that I can at least have recourse or something to rely on because of the condition and back up from the doctor. Just because it's not ongoing PEI doesn't mean it's not going to have to be.
Exactly.
It's hold in there. Just a matter of contacting the right people and getting all kinds of information.
We can find doctors for patients.
Yes.
All right? That's one of the things that we've had no choice but to do. And as patients, we have no problem going out looking for them. We're all disabled. We don't have anything else to do, so we might as well educate you people and educate ourselves at the same time. So we're going to take a quick break, I guess, probably about 45 minutes or so, because at 1 o'clock, the Brain Health Matters panel will start. That'll be with Fabian and the MFT group. And from that, you'll also, besides Brain Health Matters, you'll find out that they can actually help people with physical issues as well. So don't think that it's just a Brain Health Matters. And we'll see you all at... Kindly.
And I guess that's it. I guess we're done with that one. We've been listening to Chris. Why don't you tell people what we've been listening to, and both of you can give your final thoughts, and then we're going to take a break for lunch, and we'll be back with Brain Health Matters shortly thereafter.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It's we were just listening to Marcel and a couple other people, and Darcy and Evan talking about the history of medical marijuana in Canada, and then one of the new LPs that are hoping to open up soon was discussing their stuff. And like you said, Brain Health Matters is next, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what the veterans have to say from marijuana for trauma.
Suffering from mental illness, Chris, that's my... I like listening to those discussions because it gives me a window into what I'm going through. One of the things that Laurie and Fabian, who is speaking in Brain Health Matters, discussed at the round table that we were at was the similarities to ADHD and PTSD. I don't mean the method of how it started. I mean the outcome is the feelings are the same.
Yeah, the symptoms are very similar. Yeah.
Thanks, I couldn't come up with the word.
Absolutely. And I think Tabitha, she's a therapist and works in the mental health field. She'll be talking about that aspect as well and discussing it from her point of view and what struggles she's gone through using cannabis as medicine to help her.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to take a little break. This is the 420 Radio Show. We're live on lifestyleradio.net every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Come and listen to us. We hang out, we chat, we do our thing. And we'll be back with Brain Health Matters in a little bit.
So what are you doing? Nothing. Why not? Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website. Sounds like a cool website. Yeah, it's alright. Oh, I might have it. You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Good evening. I'm Coulter Wonkite. I'm already into the 420, damn it.
What's up? It's Reed from My Darkest Days, and you're listening to LifestyleRadio.ca.
You like music, you like weed, well, we gonna be good friends indeed. This is not much I like more than smoking trees. They'll make you dance the do-si-do and teach you how the cheese will grow. Smoke a bowl on the 420 Radio Show. On Lifestyle Radio.